Hello, and welcome to the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast, where we go book by book, chapter by chapter, through the mini tales of the Dragonlance Chronicles. And with me, as always, is my good friend Shivam.
Hello.
Today, we are starting book 3 of Winter Night. Chapter 1, The Red Wizard and His Wonderful Illusions.
I hope, God, I'm so glad they moved away from this book chapter thing. It's so confusing. But that said, this is a great chapter. It is an interlude chapter after all of the tension and stuff of the last chapters. It's nice to get a bit of a comic break. It shows a different side to Raistlin and the crew. And it's wild. I mean, this is one of my favorite chapters because it's just very evocative. It's very explanatory of the world. It's also one of my favorite, areas of Antalon, rather, like Port Balifor and that whole little reach there. Every time I run a campaign in Dragonlance, I always want to start it kind of around here. Solus is boring. Port Balifor is cool.
Solus is a little tired.
Well, it's just like, look, there's already been an adventure there. There's been an adventure there. I think it's cool looking city. If I wanted to run a more persistent campaign with like rumors and facts and adventure and shipbuilding stuff, Port Balifor is where I would start. Because this is like really close to all sorts of different directions you could take the campaign. It's also seafaring. It's also got all good adventures start on a boat, man. Yeah.
It's like all the way on the other side of the continent.
Yeah, they have traveled quite a ways.
When I think about how they have to sail from, they're heading to Flotsam to sail to Sancrist, I'm like, that's a very long journey.
Yeah, that one didn't make sense as much because and
it's like they got to go through the Blood Sea of Istar, over Nordmar, all the way down. It's like, okay.
Getting to Sancrist from there is like going the wrong way around. But you can't go south because the Arctic is right there, right? Like you can't go through the ice.
And you can't go around the world because there's a whole other continent that they don't know about.
And also, these guys are flat earthers. They don't have the idea of going around like that. But the bigger problem is, like, you look at a map of Antalon, and Sancrist is literally, like, in old RPGs, we would be talking about the world wrap right now. Like, just keep going right until you turn back to the left, right?
Exactly. That would be the quick way to do it.
But this is, like, they have to go a weird way to get there. Where is Flotsam? Because like Port Balifor's there. I'm looking at right now at the
Flotsam's north.
Yeah, Port Balifor, and then Flotsam is right on the edge of the Blood Sea, or my friend likes to call it the jelly spot on the map. I'm looking at the map from the Tasselhoff's map pouch that my friend Kipper Snifferdew drew, and it's amazing. Shout outs to Sean, you were cool. But yeah, so Port Balifor. We start off here and we're at a tavern, the famous Pig and Whistle with William Sweetwater. This place is awesome. It's just like a very cool little pub with a dorky, happy innkeeper. And it seems to be like just like everywhere else in occupied world, it's having a problem because there's goblins and draconians and they drink, but they don't tip and they drive all the custom away and everything is bad. But he's just like, huffing and puffing on. We talk a little bit about the world here, about like William Sweetwater, and they're just hanging out. And these guys show up. These dudes who are just like weary road heavy travelers, totally just beat up and dusty and everything, show up here because they've obviously had to get here from Silvanesti, which is again like on the other side of the bay, and so it's not like close. I mean, it's close, but it's like it's still got a trek, right?
Yeah.
We aren't really told, and they don't go like they don't take the land route. They don't go through Kerr. They don't go through like the mountains because that's like full on Dark Queen territory. So they just kind of cross the Bay of Balifor there. Do you know why it's called Balifor?
I do not. It sounds like a dwarf name.
No, it's a Kender name.
Ah.
Bailiff was originally the Silvanesti elf who was the like one of the great generals of the Silvanesti. He worked for Sylvanos and Kithkanon. One of my favorite characters in the Elven Nations trilogy and in the other books that he shows up in. And during the time of the Grey Gem goes around and it turns all the gnomes into dwarves and theoretically turns them into Kender. But what I prefer is the idea that the curious elves became Kender.
Mm-hmm.
And because Bailiff himself, who was a short-statured elf, finds himself as a Kender and is hanging out with these people and basically leads these folks to build Kendermore. He becomes very famous and stuff, and so Balifor and the Bay of Balifor were named for him.
Got it. Okay.
Before the Cataclysm. And so it's just like, but he was also like the first real Kender leader.
Formerly an elf.
Yeah, well, yep. Some people don't like that theory. Some people are like, oh no, it's actually the greedy gnomes became dwarves and the curious gnomes became Kender. I'm like, you know what? It was long enough ago and the stories are kind of hazy. I prefer my theory.
There are multiple stories about the origins of races, just like in our own world.
Yeah, every time somebody writes it, it changes.
Yeah, just like about the different myths in our own world where humans came from.
Pretty much. But the trick is, though, that Balifor is right next to Kendermore. So, like, the Kender are right there, which is pretty neat. Here we are in the city of Balifor, and a bunch of dudes, the companions, walk in the door, and they look like refugees. They look like people who are on the run, people who have trouble.
William's talking to his friends, and they're like, oh, they must be refugees.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, because, you know, whenever we get anyone from out of town as refugees, and they probably oppose and I like how they just jump to conclusions here. They're like, oh, well, they probably oppose the High Lords, and we'll help them if we can, but we won't say we'll help them because this real like contrived kind of, let's feel them out. And if we feel like they're good guys, we'll help them, but we won't say we're helping them.
Well, I mean, to me, that fits a vibe of this tavern, of these like old salt who are just the locals who are in here all the time and are just trying to be cool and act cool and be like, let's test them out because they think they're heroes. And this is the easiest way to do it without getting the High Lords mad.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it would probably be the best way most normal people could resist oppression is I can't risk my livelihood or my family, and I don't know how to fight or anything, but if I can help those who I think would do that, and as long as I don't make it explicit, then I have some sort of cover. Not that I think the High Lords would care if you said like, well, I had no idea. They don't seem like they're that picky and big on justice. So
no, they're not particularly interested. They're just like, look, dude, you're either in my way doing what I tell you to do, or I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
So that's on you. You figure that one out.
William brings them some food, and he's like, this is just charity. You know, you guys look like you're hard up. And Riverwind's like, no, we can't accept it. And the rest of them are like, yeah, we can accept it, and we will accept it.
Yeah, Riverwind's like, no, I must be honorable and noble. And the rest of them are like, I'm starving. Then we get the wildly out of left field bit that is actually, you know, set up early on and fully in character for Raistlin. He sits there. This is one of my favorite passages here. The red robe man who had ordered the hot water reached up and picked up a coin off the table. Balancing the coin on the back of his bony, metallic-colored hands, the man suddenly and effortlessly sent it dancing across his knuckles. William's eyes opened wide. His two friends at the bar came closer to see better. The coin flickered in and out of the red robe man's fingers, spinning and jumping. It vanished high in the air, only to reappear above the mage's head in the form of 6 coins, spinning around his hood. With a gesture, he sent them to spin around William's head. The sailors watched in open-mouthed wonder. Take one for your trouble, said the mage in a whisper. Hesitantly, William tried to grab the coins and whirl around his eyes, but his hand went right through them. Suddenly, all 6 coins disappeared, and only one remained, resting in the palm of the red-robed mage. I give you this in payment, the mage said with a sly smile. But be careful, it may burn a hole in your pocket. William accepted the coin gingerly. Holding it between his fingers, he gazed at it suspiciously. Then the coin burst into flame! With a startled yelp, William dropped it to the floor, stomping on it with his foot. His two friends burst out laughing. Picking up the coin, William discovered it to be a perfectly cold and undamaged. That's worth the meat, the innkeeper said, grinning. And the night's lodgings, added his friend, the sailor, slapping down a handful of coins. I believe, said Raistlin softly, glancing at the others, that we have solved our problems. I love this.
Yeah, that's great. And that is how the rest of the chapter goes.
Yeah, they basically just entertain.
To raise funds, they got to get from Port Balifor
to Flotsam, and then also hire a ship afterwards to take them literally around the world.
Around the world to Sancrist.
I will say this. It's a little weird that Alana didn't just give them a frick ton of money. Hey, you guys are going to go do a thing. Here are some elven funds. Take them and go. No?
Well, and also, hey, freed your land, basically. But
Yeah, maybe a reward of some kind.
she's got her other troubles.
Yeah.
They set up a show and it gets very popular.
Yeah, it's really cool because like in the first book, we're set up that Raistlin used to be like basically a carnival illusionist. Like he used to go to fairs and like have flash powder and make like lights and colors before he became a real mage, which is where he learned all of his manual dexterity, which is why, he's like really good at sleight of hand tricks. The part I found a little astonishing was that Raist had this idea at all right now. Like he is not one to normally help people or to like help his crew or to want to do anything with them. But I think part of him, the human part of him that's still in there somewhere, just kind of missed having fun with it. Like, because like I think what it is like these guys are all on an adventure together, him, his brother, his friends. It's reminding him of his youth when they used to adventure around Ansalon following with Flint. And he's probably just feeling nostalgic and was like, oh, you know what, man, I can do some tricks. I can make this stuff work and I can just get money. Money is easy to make.
That's what I was thinking. Like this was like a little slice of life preview of what it was like when they weren't on this big quest that they're on now, trying to save the world. It's like, oh, this is what, when those 5 years when they were searching or when they were going with Flint, this is how they lived their life. They just went to towns and had shows. And as we say, like the show grows bigger and bigger. And like there's a dance act by Tika, a strong arm act by Karaman, Gold Moon and Riverwind join. Like it's a whole variety show that they start putting on.
Yeah, it's a little weird that they're just like, they start making money like passing a hat around. But the fact that like Raistlin gets tired because he's using spells, but he's also just doing tricks and stuff. And yeah, sure. So Tika decides to make a slutty outfit that Karaman immediately vetoes. And then it's funny. But like she starts dancing and suddenly their money doubles. Oh, fancy that. I don't know. I thought it was really cool. But then they all decide to jump in. Karaman's picking up the innkeeper, lifting him over his head and being Mr. Strongman, so on and so forth. And then Gold Moon decides to sing a song, which thankfully they didn't decide to write out for us. And part of the reason this scene exists, though, is because like Tracy Hickman loves magic and loves like illusions and trickery and stuff.
Does he like illusions and stuff, like just magic in our world?
His son was a professional mage, not a mage, a professional like
magician. Yeah, illusionist.
And yeah, he loves these kinds of like tricks and stuff like this. So it's just like it's cool to have Raistlin just kind of like showing off fun magic tricks. As a person who also just loves going to magic shows and watching tricks and trying to figure them out and also being tricked, I love card tricks and coin tricks. They make me smile so much.
Illusions, Michael. Tricks are something a whore does for money.
But yeah, like this stuff is just like, it's delightful. It's such a delightful thing. And so Gold Moon goes out and, of course, she's going to sing a religious song. She decides to write a little hymn about the gods and how we all failed them and they're still here and blah, blah, blah. It's funny. The companions are ready for the riot, right?
Yeah, this is good because she goes to Raistlin and she says, I want to sing. And I'll read it here. Raistlin looked up at her incredulously. His eyes flicked to Riverwind. The tall plainsman nodded reluctantly. You have a powerful voice, Raistlin said, sliding the money into a pouch and drawing the string tightly. I remember quite well. The last song I heard you sing in the Inn of the Last Home touched off a riot that nearly got us killed. I will sing, she said coolly, and Riverwind will accompany me. I have written a song. And he's like, okay, very well, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, and so she sits there, she sings her song. Suddenly, everybody is just like fully in tune with it, and Raistlin's listening to the words, and he grabs Tanis and is like, oh crap, we are screwed. She is going to like make everybody pissed off, and we're all going to die. But like, no, the audience was totally attentive. Even the Draconians and the goblins were in there, were just like bored, but not really like doing anything. They're just like, whatever, it's another song, I'll just wait for it. And that's kind of impressive to me that she sang it to a room of goblins, Draconians, and folks and just got away with it.
I was going to ask, is this some sort of cleric spell that she's cast? Because it says in the book
Maybe.
It says most people don't even remember the words, but some people do, and then they come to her. It's kind of like the song is a secret message
Hmm.
for those who are ready to be proselytized.
I don't think it's like an official cleric spell as much as it's Mishakal working through her cleric and just using this song as a tool to pick out people in the audience
Yeah, okay.
and just make the rest of the people just kind of like fuzz off. When the song was over, the draconian shrug and ask for ale. The goblins want Tika to dance again. But here and there, Tanis noticed a face still holding a wonder that it had during the song. And he was not surprised to see a young, dark skinned woman approach Goldmoon shyly. And, the woman asks, like, I want to learn about the ancient gods. And she's like, come to me tomorrow and I'll teach you what I know. And thus, slowly, word of the ancient gods began to spread. And by the time they leave Port Balifor, the dark skinned woman, a soft voiced young man, and several other people wore the blue medallion of Mishakal, goddess of healing. And secretly, they went forth. Basically, Goldmoon, the missionary here, is bringing the word to the people. And to be fair, this is how clerics are made, right? Like, you initiate somebody, you clone your medallion, and they get a copy, and then they go out and keep going.
Yeah, she starts a little secret cult here.
Well, it's not quite as secret as like the Misloxan cult in Talatis, where people are being punished for something that happened on the other side of the world. So I'm going to start a secret healing cult where nobody's allowed to share anything, and she brings the gods back like in 4
Oh, and Mishakal did.
AC and not like no, yeah. In Talatis, yeah, she started her own little secret mystery cult. It's super awesome. But though, yeah, this is basically like Goldmoon is effectively proselytizing and spreading the word to more people to go out and spread it to their own communities. It's going to be wild.
It's just real cool to see like this. A big part of this book is the restoration of the old gods, and they really haven't touched on it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Once they got the discs, they gave them to, what's his name?
Elistan.
I've already forgot about him. Margaret's plan worked. Out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, they gave him to Elistan, and then he just disappeared from the story as quick as Margaret could make him disappear. Left in.
He'll come back later.
It's still put back here where we have Goldmoon, and she's doing the work, and it's Mishakal. So I like that part is still here, where we're not forgetting about the fact that we're trying to restore the old gods here, right? Not just dragon lances, which is what we dealt with last episode.
Mm-hmm.
The dragon lances have been restored. We know about good dragons. It's also the good gods have to come back as well.
Yes.
So I like that part that it's included here.
Yeah, it's a good way to just like, this scene is great because aside from being a cathartic moment, it's also just very good at setting up what is actually happening while they're traveling. How are they traveling? It's like an interlude scene, important enough to just kind of, I think you're exactly right. Like, the word is spreading. How is it spreading? Because Goldmoon periodically will just show up and bring people into the fold.
Yeah.
And that's important.
And it reminds the reader that this is a part of the story that we're going to see more of.
Exactly that. And so by the end of the month, they've got enough money to buy a wagon and get the, book passage and a ship and everything. And they go off. They're traveling north and they stop in little cities here and there and do more like.
Wait, this is great because on their way out of town, they're stopped by the commander of the Draconians there. and they're all worried for a second. And then he's just like, hey, I just want to make sure you stop in this town on your way because like my buds are there and I want them to see your show. And Raistlin's like, oh yeah, of course. That sounds great. Happy to do that for you.
Here's a comp ticket. I'll see you there.
You got the stamp of approval from a Dragon High Lord or the commander. So you're going through enemy territory. It's not a bad thing to have where you can drop his name and say, hey, the whole reason we're going is because so-and-so back in Port Balifor asked us, right? It's a great way. Earlier in the chapter that happened again, when Raistlin's show got popular enough that goblins and draconians were showing up, William was like trying to kick him out. And then Tanis was like, no, this is like actually kind of good because now we're going to be familiar. No one's going to look suspicious at us. People, we can mention ourselves later on. And if they check our story, it doesn't seem weird. We're just traveling entertainers and people can vouch for us. So it's good cover.
Oh, it's great because like people are going to be like, who are you? And then they'll be like, oh, look, it's the funny mage. And then you're good. That's so smart on their part, right? Like to be thinking about like, hey, this is a great way for us to just be open in plain sight and not attract attention. Because like
And they never use it again, do they, as cover, because they're never back again, and Raistlin's never like this ever again.
Yeah, like this is the last time you're going to see Raistlin being a nice guy, but they do bring him back later as just like mentions of stories and stuff. But
yeah,
after this book, I mean, it's
fundamentally different party.
We're going to let that happen organically. We'll talk about it when it comes. But for where they are and where they need to be, this is a great way to go through a very heavily enemy infested area where they're looking for you and not be found. Because like Raistlin's wearing bright red sequins on his, mage robe, so he looks less like a wizard and more like just a caricature.
Yeah,
just like somebody pretending to be a wizard.
He's wearing like sequined gown.
Yeah, like nobody's gonna say nothing. It's just Superman can be in plain sight. He's got glasses on.
Yeah. As they leave town, they're traveling. They mention the other party, Flint and Sturm and them. And Caramon's like, oh, I'm glad Flint and the others can't see them doing this. Tanis is like, or where is it? Tanis, he said solemnly above the jingling of the bells Tika had tied to the horses' manes. I'm more thankful than I can tell that none of our friends saw this. Can you hear what Flint would say? That grumbling old dwarf would never let me live this down. And can you imagine Sturm? The big man shook his head, the thought being beyond words. Yes, Tanis sighed. I can imagine Sturm. Dear friend, I never realized how much I depended on you. Your courage, your noble spirit. Are you alive, my friend? Did you reach Sancrist safely? Are you now the knight in body that you have always been in spirit? Will we meet again, or have we parted never to meet in this life? As Raistlin predicted. And then they just wrote right on, and it's like, oh man, there's some foreshadowing going on here.
Huh. Fancy that. Funny, because the literal next chapter
ties right into chapter 2, Knight's Trials.
The Knight's Trials.
But before we do that, just wanted to remind you all that we have a Patreon that you can support. Details are on the notes for the episode, but you can find it at www.patreon.com/Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast. One of the benefits of being a patron is that you get show notes and you get a shout out. And so shout outs to our $5 patrons right now: Alexander Louis, Nicholas Campo, Swardango, Chris Andrew, Jason Bledsoe, Brandon Brown, John Merlino Jr., Jane Newolf, Andrew Arsenault, Todd Fisher, and Iskander Bilge. Apologies if I got the names wrong. If I did, please reach out to me, correct me, and we'll say them correctly in the future. But just want to thank you all. It's just Shivam and I doing this, and I do all the grunt work. Shivam brings all the brain work.
Look, man, I have like 2 other podcasts, okay? I don't have time to edit this one too.
No judgment. I'm just saying it's us. So we really appreciate all your support. We have a Discord and a Facebook. Follow us on Blue Sky. All those links are in the notes as well. And we'd happy to see you there and talk more.
So here we are, chapter 2, the Knight's Trial, which starts with a
immediate downer, right?
Oh yeah.
The nice nostalgic chapter where we get a little breath. Whew. Now that we got our breath back, Margaret and Tracy are here to take it away from us with this real nail-biter chapter.
Oh yeah, like this chapter is a humdinger, man, and it starts off with a hell of a sentence. And finally, said Derek in a low and measured voice, I accuse Sturm Brightblade of cowardice in the face of the enemy. What? What?
It doesn't pull any punches.
Oh no, it's on, buddy. It is on.
If you didn't like Derek before, you're really not going to like him by the end of this chapter.
Woo. Yeah.
So the Knights of Solamnia are gathered in Castle Uthwistan, home of Lord Gunther.
Uthwistan, man.
Sorry. Uthwistan, who is like the acting Grand Master, Lord Gunther.
Yeah, so basically, Solamnic names. When you see someone Uth something, the Uth is either their father or the progenitor of their line. So it's sort of like son of blah.
Got it.
And so, anyway, Lord Gunther is the highest ranking Rose Knight, and currently there is no Grandmaster, but he is the one with the largest faction, so he is acting Grandmaster. However, the biggest claimant for the other side, the person who has the only chance of being Grandmaster instead of Gunther, happens to be one Derek Crownguard. Whoopsie doodle.
Who is ambitious enough to be pushing for it.
Yeah. So That puts a whole different light on this whole chapter here, because just to set it up a bit, they're currently in Castle of Thwiston, which is Gunther's house, but also sort of the de facto headquarters of the knighthood, which is why it's in Sancrist and not in Solamnia. It's like it's not supposed to be in Sancrist, but it just happens to be like before the Cataclysm, Sancrist was kind of part of Antelon still. So here we are, we're in Gunther's house, and there's a circle of knights there. Basically, everybody who is surviving in the knighthood is here right now. Like the knighthood has been severely diminished.
It's like 20 knights, and they said that seems to have been a difficult task to bring that many knights in. So there's not a lot of them.
Yeah, like effectively, the knights were the nobles and landholders in Solamnia, the ones who like kind of kept up the like knighthood and the feudalistic stuff. And the bulk of the Slavonic armies were made up of soldiers and grunt recruits and like people that they would get from, there's a word for it, but like, you know, the people, the conscripts that you would get to be your soldiers and stuff. That's how the knighthood had an army.
Yeah.
The large number of knights of Solamnia are not knights of Solamnia. There's only a handful, some in perspective wise. Originally, the way it would work is there's a grandmaster running the whole knighthood, and then there's the head of each of the three armies. Basically, there's the crown knights who are run by the high justice, the sword knights who are run by the high clerist, and then the rose knights who would be run by the hang on a second, let me pull up the
Grandmaster, right?
well, the grandmaster is the big boss of all of it, but let me grab my DLA really quick. I've been talking about this a lot with Margaret lately because it came up in books. Yeah, because like in the old days, in first edition D&D, when you leveled up, each level had a title. And when you got to the top title, you were like the boss. Like you were the head boss of all of the thing for these people, or like the fighter becomes a king or something like that. Actually, I'm going to get that specifically too, just because I know that people are going to be like, hey, how could you not get the first edition right? So for instance, the clerics table, right? The level 1 cleric was an acolyte, and then an adept, then a priest, and a curate, and a canon, a lama, a patriarch, and a high priest, etc. The fighters table would be a veteran, a warrior, swordsman, hero, swashbuckler, myrmidon, champion, superhero, and lord, so forth. And so like the knights also had these level tables, and Knights of the Crown had the High Warrior, the Knights of the Sword had the High Clerist, and the Knights of the Road has a High Justice. And of those three, one of those would be elected to be the Grandmaster.
Got it. So High Warrior's not mentioned in the book right now, but it was in the modules.
Yeah, it's in like the extra work. And the Crown Knights really don't have much going on right now. It's weird. The knighthood is as set up doesn't really make a lot of sense. But the way it works is everybody starts as a Crown Knight, which is like the soldiers dedicated to Habakkuk. They're, just like low level grunts. They learn to be knights. They learn to do whatever. They're not really the tacticians, but they are like the on the field people. Then they promote themselves after doing a quest and a vigil and stuff to become sword knights. And the sword knights are like the clerics. They're both the clerics in the healer sense, in the medic sense, in the we are devoting ourselves to Kiri Jolith, and we are going to become like Habakkuk, Kiri Jolith, and Paladin. They devote themselves to Kiri Jolith. They become like prayerful. They're priests. They're the mentor. They're also like the clerists in the sense of like doing the
clergy,
not just clergy, but also like clerks, like doing the paperwork of the knighthoods.
Oh, got it.
And doing like the finances and doing the actual administrative tasks of running the knighthood is the sword order. And then there's the Rose, who are the nobles. They're the leaders, they're the tacticians, the generals, the big bosses. And you have to be a sword knight in good standing and then go through a different vigil quest to become a Rose Knight. However, after the Cataclysm, effectively, the families of Rose Knights turned that into a hereditary order, and it was just perfunctory for them to go through the Crown and Sword because there was no clerics anymore. There's no high clerist. There's no reason there's no gods.
Was there a different god for the Rose Knights?
Paladin.
Okay. And
yeah,
the other two you mentioned are just good gods.
They're gods of good.
In the pantheon, right?
Yeah, they're the sons of Paladin.
Okay.
Yeah. Habakkuk is a god of like rangers and fishers and like natural things and the sea and stuff like that. Kiri Jolith is the patron of paladins and warriors and just battle. He's like opposed by Sargonis, the god of war and evil battle and stuff.
Okay.
but he's like, the god of honor and of trust. So like dwarves who are good aligned worship, Kiri Jolith. Paladine is the head of good. So Paladine and his wife Mishakal, they had two children, Kiri Jolith and Habakkuk. Then there's also Solinari, who is the son of Paladine, and then there's Majir, who is the monk, who is like Habakkuk's best friend, brought from the beyond to be like the god of meditation and of like focus and that sort of thing.
So all of that sounds normal until you mention Majir, who was brought from beyond, and that sounds like a weird different thing. But anyway, that's for another time.
It sure is a weird different thing. They don't really explain it. They're just kind of like, he's here. But it's a shame because like he's my favorite one. So anyways.
So the trial of Sturm.
Yes.
Here we are. Presided over by the Grand Master, the High Clerist, and the High Justice, except there is no Grand Master. We have Gunther acting as, and there hasn't been a High Clerist since the Cataclysm, and there is a High Justice, but it says that his hold on office was tenuous at best. Derek has provided his testimony. It ended with the accusation. Sturm will have his chance to respond before he's to be judged.
Yeah.
Some of his accusations are insubordination, failure to obey orders, masquerading as a knight.
Yeah. Technically, he's wearing the armor that he shouldn't be.
Exactly.
Because again, the Rose Knights, they just give their armor to their kids and you become the next Rose Knight. And they kind of like promote themselves like Boy Scouts through the other two orders because there aren't any Sword Knights because they were not nobles. The Sword Knights do have some level of nobility, but like you can see already the caste system here in place, which is like...
Sturm's family, do they come from the Rose Knights or do they come from other?
They were Rose Knights.
Okay, but they were disgraced at some point.
They weren't disgraced as much as like... insofar as all the knights were disgraced. But like, no, Sturm leaves Solamnia because his family's house is attacked. His father stays behind to protect the castle. And his mother and infant Sturm are sent off to Solus or south with money to just be safe.
Got it.
And so Sturm is raised with stories of being like a knight and what his father did. And he always hopes to go back and get his stuff. So that's what he does in the 5 years he's separate. He goes back to Solamnia, discovers his house has been taken over by peasants and other people. He goes and gets his dad's armor and sword back and comes back.
Okay. All right.
That's why in the beginning, you see me wearing my birthright and he's wearing the full-on Knight of the Rose armor. He's got his long knighthood mustache, but he's never been through the actual trials of becoming a knight. So he's literally just stolen valor is what this is.
Well, he's being accused of stolen valor.
Yeah, well, I mean, by the letter of the law, it's correct. He never did anything. He's a squire. Like, he doesn't have the right to wear any of this stuff. That's what this whole chapter is about, is like the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law versus the notion of like, hey, we're desperate for people and we're fighting a war against evil. Maybe we don't need to be like choosing our own dudes right now.
I think it does highlight how far the knights have fallen in a lot of ways, not just numerically, but, this kind of petty infighting and this search for glory. Derek seems more concerned about winning this and using it as points.
Derek is concerned about Derek.
Yeah, concerned about winning this because he'll use this to jump to be the Grand Master, and when he should be more concerned about the fact that the Dark Queen is back and out to destroy him and everything he loves.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to be a concern of his.
And there's the other thing is that like Derek wants to unseat Gunther. Gunther put his name in to give Sturm validity and vouched for Sturm. So...
But he's about to do that, or he also did it before, do we learn?
He did it before.
Okay.
When Sturm shows up again in the 5 years.
Got it.
So here we are. We're at the trial of Sturm. Basically the head of the order and the two heads of the higher... Really, I think this is just they didn't think about the fact that the Crown Knights would be there and they thought that the High Justice would be the leader of the Crown Knights. But they changed that when they wrote DLA afterwards.
Derek makes his position, and then the three at the table, it's Lord Gunther, Lord Alfred McCarran, and Lord Michael Joffrey. Michael Joffrey's Knight of the Crown, Lord Alfred is the Knight of the Sword, and Gunther is the Knight of the Rose. They're talking like, okay, and they say this case has never been like this. Always before, when a squire has been brought up before the Council of the Order to attain his knighthood, there have been witnesses, many witnesses. He's given an opportunity to explain his reasons. But Brightbraid's only defense is that Derek lies. And it says, that is unthinkable to take the word of a squire over a knight of the rose. So they don't even, one, they're saying, does he even have a right of rebuttal? Because our laws only apply to knights and he isn't a knight. Furthermore, if we are to do it, it's just a squire. Like they're saying, like, oh, how could we ever believe a squire over, because if his title is higher, he must be more trustworthy, right? Like there's this weird thing. Why would we ever believe a humble squire over a knight of the rose? He's proved himself to be so worthy and pure, but as Shivam has already said, no, he was given the knight of the rose because anyone in that family gets to be it. But they're still acting as if that's not the case.
Well, there's also a bit of a trade-off there in the fact that, like, Derek is a tried and tested knight. Not only is he a knight, he has also been through the trials, and he's been in the knighthood and in the politics of the knighthood for a long time. So the underlying text here is not necessarily a squire versus a knight, which is like their kind of weasel words of getting out of this. It's more of, hey, here's the dude we know being accused by this random guy.
Yeah. But he's not random guy, because really he should have all the benefits conferred on him because he's the child of Rose Knight as well. It's that he just wasn't there and he didn't jump through the hoops.
He still has to go through at least the basics, right?
Gunther says, like, hey, he's going to get a chance to talk. Do any of you guys say no? And they both back down. We get some inner monologue, as we've already been talking about, with Gunther, like complaining about all the scheming and politicking that infests the order. Then we learn that Lord Gunther's main rival is Derek Crownguard for being Master of the Knights, and that Derek is hungry for advancement.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he took this quest to find the Dragon Orb. Now that he has found the Dragon Orb, it's going to be hard for Gunther to keep his seat as Grandmaster, because, hey, here comes Derek with the thing that's supposed to save them all.
Yeah, like, look, Derek showed up with the stuff. Like, he came back and he's like, look, I've quested and I've solved my quest and I've come back with this thing.
And it's interesting, we learn that the only people opposed to Derek are the youngest knights, the poorest knights, the crown. They're the only ones who oppose them. But they're few in number and not well funded, which I thought was funny. It's like, oh, this is an inverted pyramid. Are there more Knights of the Rose than there are Knights of the Crown?
Kind of. Because who wants to be a hereditary Knight of the Crown?
Yeah. Well, and that's like the working knight, right? Like you're the low level grunt. And so everyone, this is a top heavy organization. No wonder they're not functioning well.
Like, the noble families managed to keep their holdings in the castles and their knighthoods. And the low-level ones kind of just faded from there. The knights took their people from the nobility, but the Knights of the Crowns were the ones that were opened up to all of the people, which is why that was like, think about it. If you're sitting here and you're a Knight of the Crown and you know that your family heritage is the Knight of the Rose, would you want to just sit and stick in the Knight of the Crown? Like, why? All the money and everything and all the power is up there.
That's true.
These guys have nothing else going on. There's no wars. There's nowhere to fight. There is.
There's no kingdom anymore, and everyone else hates them because they think they're sellouts or betrayers.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess all they have is petty scheming.
Yeah. When you see, like, somebody has to be the head of the Knight of the Crown, you get the feeling that, like, that guy is there because that's his best chance of getting power, not because he particularly cares about being a grunt soldier.
Yeah. And here's where we learn that Sturm was Gunther's squire, that 5 years ago when Sturm showed up, it was Gunther that advanced his claim.
Mm-hmm.
The ties between Gunther's family and Sturm's family go back generations.
Mm-hmm.
The questioning of Sturm begins. They discuss about the events that happened in Icewall.
It's really funny, actually, because, like, Sturm, first off, is sitting there stone-faced, and he's, like, listening to them accuse him, and the only time he flinches is when they call him a coward, because he's Sturm. He is never going to be a coward. So the trick here is that, like, how old are you, Brightblade? And Sturm's like, he blinks at the unexpected question. Over 30, I believe, Gunther continued. Yeah, my lord. And from what Derek tells us about your exploits, you're a skilled warrior. And Derek's like, I never denied that. Yet you accuse him of cowardice, Gunther snapped. They basically get into this fight about the fact that Derek is saying that Sturm is a coward in the face of the enemy, and the enemy here is the elves, who are not enemies of the Solamnics. And he's like, what are you trying to say, dude? Are you trying to, like, declare a war without...
Yeah, this is good. This is good politicking here, because he's like, oh, you say he disobeyed your orders, but he disobeyed you to fight the elves. And aren't the elves our allies?
Yeah.
And then forces Derek to backtrack here. He's, perhaps enemy is too strong a word, my lord, Derek recovered smoothly. If I am at fault, it is simply that I am being forced to go by what is written in the measure. At the time I speak of, the elves, though not our enemies in point of fact, were doing everything in their power to prevent us from bringing the dragon orb to Sancrist. Since this was my mission and the elves opposed it, I therefore am forced to define them as enemies according to the measure. The measure, I guess, is the laws, because they quote
Yes.
they keep referring to it a lot, like, oh, the measure, because these guys are all by the book.
Yes. The measure is basically 37 volumes
Oh my God.
of Solomonic law. They're like very lengthy books that are tomes of like all of the sundry, laws and customs. And
is it like commentaries? Is this just like a Talmudic kind of thing? You could become a master of the measure and, oh, according to Sir such and such and such and such, this is how, oh, okay.
Well, no, it's not. They don't. There's commentary and stuff, but they don't mention the knight's commentary as much as it is in the measure. So we are going to go by the measure.
Got it. Okay.
The measure is never thankfully quoted anywhere, but it's just kind of like arbitrarily the measure.
No one decided to take on writing all 37 volumes, the measure.
I assure you that there are some fans out there who have definitely done that. But we're going to just say that for our purposes, the measure is just body of work. It is just the law.
Yeah.
And so they like sit and quote the measure a lot. Everybody seems to know the measure. Like everybody seems to have this thing memorized inside and out. I guess they don't have a lot else going on. But also, even people like periodically like Sturm and Lorana and stuff will be quoting the measure. And it's like, why do you know this? But I guess it's just there's enough chunks of it that are just common law for society. So yeah, the measure.
This line of questioning, he says, okay, they weren't enemies. Lord Alfred, the High Justice, who also happens to be a Derek partisan, says, look, Derek's not on trial here, so can we go back to Sturm? And then Sturm says, look, I don't think he lied. I think he just misrepresented me. And then Gunther asks him why. And Sturm refuses. He doesn't want to answer. And when he says, look, you have to answer. I'm ordering you. He says, if I say anything, it would impinge on the honor of another knight. And then Gunther commands him to speak. And Sturm doesn't want to do this because he knows what he's about to say is going to make a permanent enemy of Derek, who is already mostly a permanent enemy, but he's going to cement it right here.
Yeah, like let's be real, they're already permanent, but this is like not just of Derek. This is going to be a permanent enemy of like the universe here.
I mean, the majority of the knights are going to turn against him on this, yeah.
Oh yeah,
because he says, even though he doesn't want to, he's been ordered to, and Sturm's not going to lie. That's Sturm's going to live the measure. So he's been ordered, and he's going to tell the truth, regardless of how much it's going to personally damage him and his goals, because that's what he is. He's a true knight. He says that Derek has testified as he has to further his own career. I believe Lord Derek Crownguard misrepresents me in an effort to further his own ambition, my lord. Tumult broke out. Derek was on his feet. His friends restrained him forcibly, or he would have attacked Sturm in the council hall. Gunther banged the sword hilt for order, and eventually the assembly quieted, but not before Derek had challenged Sturm to test his honor in the field.
Oh yeah, he's going to throw him down for a duel.
Yeah. Lord Derek, that in this, a declared time of war, the contests of honor are forbidden. Come to order, or I will have you expelled from this assembly. Breathing heavily, his face splotched with red, Derek relapsed back into his seat. Gunther gave the assembly a few more moments to settle down, then resumed. Have you anything more to say in your defense, Sturm Brightblade? No, my lord, Sturm said. Then you may withdraw while this matter is considered. So Sturm offers no evidence. All he says is that, nope, that guy's selfish. That's all I got.
That's so funny. It's just like Sturm is definitely hanging himself here because his stiff-necked nobility will not allow him to defend himself properly. And it's so irritating. It's like, dude, just
he can't do it. He has to do
Yeah, he has to live the law.
He has to live his way. He has to follow it. Derek's so upset for being called out what is obvious to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in the room knows Derek is doing everything he is doing to advance his own career. He has partisans who have agreed with him, right? We learned that like Lord Alfred is one of them. Lord Gunther has said all this stuff internally. But how dare you mention it in public, right? Like everyone knows it's doing it and it's all okay as long as no one says anything. And Sturm probably knows that as well. And he just says it anyway.
Sturm is just not, he is not a very tactful person.
No.
He's like a really terrible tactician, honestly. Like he just keeps putting himself into like crappy positions on purpose. And I'm like, okay, buddy, I get it. Your honor's your life.
This is why lawful good is the worst. The worst.
Look, I play lawful good all the time, but he plays lawful stupid. You know, it's just like, come on, man.
I don't know where that is on the chart. Where is lawful stupid on the grid?
Being good doesn't mean you don't just have to walk into the trap, dude. Like, with your eyes open. Come on.
So he's escorted out and he's got to wait. And he just sits there stewing in his own juices, like, oh, this is done. I don't have anything. Like, I've never lived among the knights. All I have is my honor, and they're about to take that from me. So I just hope they kill me, because that would be better.
Yeah, basically, he's like, look, the only thing I got is for you to actually just kill me.
He's not very hopeful. And like the fact that he recognized all that and he still said the stuff he said is just, it's something.
It's like, oh, brother, come on. Come on.
Hours pass. And then he goes back in, and it's this weird whole thing where they've decided where apparently the young knight supported Sturm and the older knight sided with Derek, and he disobeyed a superior, and that's all there is to it. He's declared guilty. He's forbidden to wear any of the trappings of a knight. And then they said, but because you couldn't call any witnesses, and the measure requires that you are allowed to call witnesses, we have some special circumstances. And this being the case, this is so weird. Sturm will become, on the honor of Gunther, a Knight of the Crown.
Yeah. This is like a weird punishment. Hey, you've been masquerading as a knight for a long time, so to punish you, we're going to force you to become a knight.
And then he's made in charge of the Knights of the Crown contingent of the armies that they're about to send forth to set sail for Palanthos. And this seems like a crazy way to run an army.
Yeah. It's like, hey, we've got this guy who's been accused of cowardice by one of our most popular knights. So in punishment, we're going to make him into a knight and then put him in charge of the third of our army.
And then he's going to have to co-control this army with Derek as the first for the Knights of the Rose, Lord Alfred as the second for sword, and then Sturm as third in command over the Knights of the Crown. And it's just like Derek and Sturm hate each other at this point.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a great idea.
No, it's a terrible idea.
You two work together to do the strategy and the organizing for the army.
This is certainly not going to backfire in any way, shape, or form.
There's all gasps of astonishment. This is not what is expected. The whole room, Derek and his group of followers are furious.
Yeah.
The younger knights who have taken Sturm on as kind of like the scrappy underdog like us, they're celebrating it.
Gunther had to basically force the other two guys to own this, so which means he must have made some serious concessions and or pulled a lot of favors or just like, you owe me.
Yeah. I think this is Gunther playing like he knows he's got to like swing big or he's going to lose. And like this is his biggest swing. So he's putting it all on the line for Sturm to like come out right so that he can defeat Derek. The trial's over. Everyone leaves. It's just Gunther and Sturm there. And like Sturm's like, hey, thanks so much. And Gunther doesn't say anything. He's like, we'll just go back to my room and we'll have a glass of wine. And Sturm is like, has Gunther risked too much for him? And then Gunther says, like, well, have you ever failed in the past? Let me see if I can find this line here. Have you failed in the past, Sturm? Gunther asked. Sturm looked up, his brown eyes flashing. No, my lord, he answered. I have not. I swear it. Then I have no fear for the future, Lord Gunther said, smiling. He raised his mug. I pledge your good fortune in battle, Sturm Brightblade. Sturm shut his eyes. The strain had been too much. Dropping his head on his arm, he wept, his body shaking with painful sobs. Gunther gripped his shoulders. I understand, he said, his eyes looking back at a time in Solamnia when this young man's father had broken down and cried that same way. The Night Lord Brightblade had sent his young wife and infant son on a journey into exile, a journey from which he would never see them return. There's like a lot of echoes of what happened to his father here. What a huge boost to your ego. Like, I've never failed. And so Gunther's like, well, then I don't have anything to worry with. I made a safe bet. So I trust you. What a day for Sturm. Even though they just said, like, you can't wear any knight stuff, but we're going to make you a crown guard. I guess he can't wear his dad's armor because his dad's armor is rose armor.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to find other armor that so like, as they prepare to sail for Palanthas, and they're going to fight. Is the plan to like amass all their armies in one place and try to defeat the Dark Queen's amassed armies? What's in Palanthas that they're heading that way? Do we know at this point?
Well, I mean, that's where like probably the rest of the knights are, and that's also where they want to make their last stand, right? Like the knights are basically the armies of Kitiara and the Dark Queen and everybody are like advancing up towards through Solamnia. Palanthas is a very protected city.
Okay.
Like if you look geographically, there's the mountains are in front of it, and then there's a high Claris tower blocking the pass. And that tower is a very, very defensible function. So like if you were going to stop and have a big final battle, that would be a good place to do it. Basically, they're trying to amass their armies and get all of their people and all their alliances and everything together in one place to be able to start their advance back.
Okay. So that's where they're headed, to Palanthas. This is funny because he's like, oh, the next few days were busy. Meeting with his commander, Derek Crownguard, also tense. It's like, yeah, he's got to meet because he's the third person in charge of this army. So there's all this organizational stuff. And every time he's got to, like, he has to do all this stuff with Derek, and who absolutely hates him. Finally, the day arrives. They're to sail away. And Gunther finally says, like, hey, you don't have time to think about it, but what witnesses could you have when you get back? We need to start thinking about that. He thinks about Tanis and Alhana, but he doesn't know if they're alive. So he says Lorana. And Gunther worries that it's a woman. And then Sturm's like, no, she's the daughter of the Speaker of the Sun. And it's like, oh, well, that's good. That'll work for us. All I could think reading that is, oh, but Gunther doesn't know that it's the disgraced daughter of the Speaker of the Sun.
Look, technical details. Like, Sturm is nothing if not perfectly good at saying just the words he needs to say.
You say that, but just a few days ago, he opened his mouth and screwed himself.
But it's like, he's not going to mention that she's a disgraced daughter. That has no bearing on the conversation.
Yeah.
And I don't think he would ever say disgrace because he holds Lorana way too much respect.
Yeah, he wouldn't say that she's disgraced. But if the Speaker of the Sun is present, he might say, she's my disgraced daughter. Anyway, Gunther's hopeful that with Lorana's testimony, Sturm will win the suit and he'll have his armor restored to him. He wishes Sturm's well and blesses him as a son. And then the ships carry the knights out into the seas. And that is how chapter 2 of book 3 of Dragons of Winter Night ends.
I got to say, it is a little funny to me that the knighthood is like, you need to buy new armor. We're not going to give you armor. I mean, yeah, part of his punishment was like, you don't get to draw from the stores of the knighthood or whatever, or get any money from us. At the same time, I'm like, if I'm sending a dude to war, I would probably just bake in an exception to say, you can wear the armor you have that works.
Is no one paid in this army?
They're all nobles. They have their own stipends. There's no central knighthood anymore. The High Claris doesn't exist.
Sturm doesn't. He doesn't have any lands, right? He doesn't have any money. So I guess that's why he's hard up trying to find some stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's why he's buying used armor, dude.
A mishmash of armor. And he's like, yep, I'm third in command. That's a great look for your army, guys.
You would think if you're putting him in command, at least give him the uniform.
Yeah.
But nope. It's so... It doesn't make sense, but you get the point that Whitesnake been trying to make, that he's basically like been demoted to the dirt bottom.
Yeah. Except he's third in command of the army.
Yeah.
It's a weird mix.
Yeah.
And that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. Next month, we'll be going to chapter 3 of book 3, The Dragon's Orb, Caramon's Pledge, and there's some good art there.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun one.
Thanks for joining me today, Shiva.
Thank you.
As I said before, you can find all our socials in the show notes, as well as Shivam's other 2 shows. Why don't you go ahead and mention those now?
Yeah, my 2 magic shows, Casual Magic and Shivam and Wheeler Love Magic. You can find them anywhere podcasts are sold. But with that, my friends, we will see you guys next time on the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast.
Bye. It actually makes Raistlin likable. Semi.
Yeah, for one.
Yeah, I'll fix it in post.
Or you won't. It doesn't matter. It's fine.
We are starting book 3 of Autumn.
God, first edition's player's handbook is so trashy.